Welcome to this episode of Demand Drivers. I'm Mike Sanders from Oddball Marketing.
I'm Kristen Hancock from Fontaine Swatch.
And I'm Christopher Melotti from Melotti Media.
In this episode, we're going to cover off the power of emotion in driving demand. There's a really interesting topic around the emotional side of things, and the irony is that we've given this episode to me, who's probably the least emotional person on this panel.
You have an emotion.
But why don't we throw it to the most emotional?
God. Throws the extra, right? Okay, where do we go with this? Okay, so I would say that when it comes to marketing, and agree or disagree with me, because it's a bit of a weird one. Emotion plays such an important part of marketing, especially in the world we live in right now, where we've got this like whole AI coming in and all this like digital technology and all these things that seems to like move more to automation than it is to the human aspect. But in the end, we are talking to humans. Humans are the ones that need to consume the content. Humans are the ones that are actually pushing the button to convert. And humans are triggered by emotions. And so I think that the thing that people probably listening and watching going, oh, duh, right? But it's all well and good to say duh, but when you're actually executing, does your marketing have that emotional connection there? And I think as marketers, we need to look deeper than we are right now. I mean, have you seen that?
I think if you look at it, interestingly, from a scientific aspect in terms of emotion and trying to have an impact on people, there's a whole lot of studies that have kind of come out that really reconfirm that emotion is a really massive factor in terms of making a decision.
And I think that's the key point. And to get over the hump initially, because a lot of people say, well, branding, marketing, etc., it's a bit fluffy. Do I really need it?
Yes.
We've talked about in other podcasts whether actually marketing and branding costs, should they sit below the line or above the line? But it's got scientific proof.
Yes.
It's absolutely clear that people make decisions based on emotion.
Yep.
There's scientific proof to show that not only do they make decisions based on it, they actually make more decisions to the brand that you have. So I'll say that again. They're 2 times more likely to spend on the brand that works on emotion versus the ones that just focus on information.
Yep.
So these are clear scientific studies. So for those that are naysayers around it's fluffy and it's emotional, it's not fluffy.
Yep.
It's financial.
Agree. And Dr. Leanne, who we had on as a previous guest, she, in the previous episodes we've done with her, she backed this up, which was, she said that people are acting on emotion and rationalizing with the logic.
Yeah.
And so that's why you have that whole, like, where brands have, appealing colors, appealing designs, appealing messages that are really appealing to the emotional side of the transaction, and then backing it up with that, like, whole, here's why you need to make this decision. And I think nothing's different. This is marketing 101, right?
Yes. Well, this is, when you look at it from, going back to that sort of scientific element, when you look at, the way that the fields have been sort of evolving, that's the whole behavioral economics, right? This is Daniel Kahneman and the studies that they've been doing and looking at how we behave. And looking at that sort of system 1, system 2, if you can tap into the emotional aspect of things, which is kind of your system 1 brain sort of working, that's a much faster moving system. So if we've got brands and we've got services...
And it's a system that works in the subconscious as well.
Exactly.
Yes. And that's where you're making your decision. Okay, so if you're tapping into that exactly as you're saying, then that's how you're making it. And so you're engaging that, so you're engaging a faster decision and a stronger connectivity.
So this is an interesting one. So if we look at it then from a marketing point of view, how do we then take an appeal from an emotional basis?
It's a good question.
Because that's where I think a lot of businesses make that mistake. We sort of think logically about, okay, well, problem solution, what are the features of my product?
Yes.
And let's just list that out. And you would see that from a content point of view, right?
Yeah, exactly. How often is it just feature?
Like when it comes to brand, this is what I keep advocating for, is the fact that, think of all those brands, like, there's a reason why people love the sustainability angle, right? Because or the inclusive angle, right? Is that, sure, you've got a product or service, but what people are really buying is things like safety, security, ego even. And there's a lot of those emotional connections that I think businesses are overlooking, like you said, Mike, because they go to the product, or they go specifically to the feature, right? They'll say, it has a feature-rich platform and you can find everything here, but that's leading to the emotion of confusion. Whereas if you have something that's like, I've seen a lot of brands now go so bold as to say gamify your CRM or something like that. And it's like, it's that whole like real getting that tangibility around safety, protection, inclusion, sustainability, feeling great, peace of mind. I think that emotion needs to be tapped into more. And I do that a lot in messaging is I say, what I tend to do is I go, a client will present the problem and I find the problem behind the problem and then solve both. Right. And usually the problem behind the problem is emotional, but it's they start with the whole, what they're familiar with, which is that whole rational, logical side. They'll go, oh, people don't have this feature, so we give them this feature. But really what it is they feel frustration. And it's solving that with the messaging.
That's an interesting one because we do a similar kind of thing when we look at the strategy side of things for clients, where we look at the problem solution aspect of the equation and sort of thinking about what people are actually making the purchase for.
Yep.
But you've got to then take it that step beyond and look at the aspirational side of things.
Yes.
So it's not that. So the problem solution is that transactional, logical discussion that's
Which
going
needs to be
on.
there.
Yeah.
Yep.
But it's really when you then bring in the solution aspiration, you bring in that emotional connection of what's it going to do for them and how they're going to feel. From whether it's using or the product or the service, it's how it makes them feel afterwards as a result of that.
Yep.
Yeah. So I look at it. Yes, I think the problem solution piece is the reason for existence.
Yep.
So that's why we have this service or that's why we have this product. So we're solving this need, but that's not why people purchase it.
Yep.
At the end of the day, people purchase from people, and it's been established that it's an emotional connection that you have with your brand. And for us, therefore, you need to understand what's the emotion that you want to convey from your brand and what's the personality of your brand. We actually use Carl Jung's 12 archetypes to help us understand what the brand personality is, because that's the foundation of what that brand is and what it's trying to convey. So where's it's positioned? We then look at what is the emotional connection that you want to have with your audience, and now how are we going to convey that emotional connection. So and there's two parts to that. So what do we want to convey to you about our brand emotionally, and that's linked to the personalities, but then what emotion do you want your audience to feel once they have participated in your product or your service? And it's it takes a lot of skill to be able to convey that now, because what are the tools that we have? Well, firstly, obviously, we've got the amazing work that somebody like Chris does, which is the messaging, but then a lot of what people take in, they take in visually.
Yes.
Before they get to the verbal, it's the visual expression of that, and that's how we actually work with the colours and the fonts, the imagery and the elements, and how we bring that together in a tone or a voice to express that emotion.
I think that's an interesting one that you raised there around the emotion, in that it's not just looking at one particular thing in terms of the writing for it, but it could be a combination of sort of impacting all the senses to really get that proper.
Well, that's why we have title pages.
Yeah.
Right? Like if you think about the first thing, like you were saying, when people land on a homepage, right, they get all that impression. When there's 3 sentences, or not even 3, if there's 3 words and something pretty, right, people feel so engaged straight away. Same as like a slide kit, same as like a brochure title page, is if it says like liberate your brand and there's a really great set of colors and an image behind it, immediately you are emotionally invested in this, right? Whereas if you see like a block of text, people go, that sounds exhausting.
That's too hard. It's gonna,
right? And so I think that's what we're trying to say here.
Yeah,
so evoking that emotional connection.
So, okay, next thought around
you got to throw me a
emotion.
curveball. I can see it. The way he's looking. Yep, go on.
Positive or negative?
Oh, going for it? Like
in terms of how the emotions that you latch onto, what's better, going positive or going negative?
You know what the funny thing is?
Before you answer, if I answer that, it all comes back to what I was saying before. What emotion do you want your brand to convey? What is its personality? And how are you trying to connect with the customer?
Yep.
Because that will lead me down to whether I'm driving a positive message or a negative message, because am I trading on happiness, sadness, fear or anger? What am I actually trying to trade on? Because they're our 4 core emotions, so we've got to start with the core, and then we get into the subtlety of it to really connect and grow that that brand connectivity through your voice. But start where I said before, and now it's
from the
back
brand.
to you, Chris.
No, that was good. Look, I don't think there's a right or wrong, and the reason why is because as myself, I tend to focus on the positive side. And sometimes people go, yes, absolutely. But sometimes that pain is what needs... you can't happiness your way out of some things. Sometimes you need to say, have you identified this problem, whatever that is? We have the solution, is more motivating than everything's great, we can make it greater. Because there's less of a hump there. But every situation is different. Like Kristen and I worked recently on a client, and they had studies that proved that the negative messages didn't work as well as the positive ones. Right? They actually had case studies of years of testing clients, and they had that anything that belittled just did not resonate, whereas anything that added to the experience was a positive reaction. But I know I can't say that that's normal, because sometimes you need to say, like, is your safety at risk? You need this. Is your cash flow in a danger area? Connection? You need this.
Yep.
I know that didn't give you an answer, but
no, I mean, and that fits also with some of the studies too that came out around, loss aversion.
Yes.
And so that, what we value, what we have versus what we don't have. And so that negative emotion you can play heavily to that loss aversion side of things, and to motivate people can be very, very powerful.
Huge.
You look at the insurance industry and stuff, they're not actually selling anything that you
a big grudge
you're not getting anything from it.
Yeah.
But what you are doing is preventing the loss of something from it.
That's
and
still
so
a
that
hard
plays, generally speaking, it plays a little bit more towards the negative side of things, because it's fear of loss that's more impactful than the positivity of being safe and secure.
Mike, you take a lot of the insurance companies now, and you look at how their branding has evolved, and they have moved further from that just direct, this is loss aversion, if you don't have it, you're going to die, to actually, we are preventing loss aversion, but we're giving you so much more. And we're embracing you and connecting with you through life and your life journey. So we're making this emotional connection with how we are with you in the difficult times, not we'll just be there with a clipboard when something goes wrong. Because that was the old way, where it used to be, we'll pay you out probably. Now it's actually,
You're right.
See how their branding has evolved,
NRMA.
Because they've learnt that actually those that connect more emotionally are more likely to be more comfortable with paying the premium. Okay, and they all position themselves slightly differently towards the different demographic and the way that they're going to offer what goes around their service as well. One of the things that I really wanted to talk about was making sure that within emotional connectivity, in branding particularly, it's about consistency as much as there's no point setting it up and then not executing it well. You've got to have every single aspect of your... Sorry, I've hit my microphone. Every single aspect of your branding in tune, so that you've got a complete tone of voice and you stay consistent to that tone of voice, because it works both ways. If you give people two conflicting emotions on your brand, you have caused confusion and you'll cause distrust. So that will take you further away from your branding. And all the hard work you've done, it's very easy to unpick.
So I suppose in terms of to summarize what we've kind of gone through as such, like emotion is I think we're all in agreement.
Key.
Yeah.
In every bit of messaging and branding and all our advertising essentially has to have some sort of level of emotion. That's how people make purchases. It's based on the emotion, and then they justify it through the rational side of things. So in any advertising, in terms of those listening to us, critical that we sort of tap into the emotional side of things, of the impact of what we're doing or what people are buying, and what that's going to do and how it's going to make them feel.
Yep, or especially in today's doom scrolling, low attention span. Like, exactly. If you think about it, all those people that are going scroll, or the attention span keeps, reducing, is that it's the motion that gets that peak, and gets that attention.
You've got to grab that attention from your target audience. You don't have to grab the attention from everybody, but your target audience you must resonate with. And in a sea of noise, you've got milliseconds to grab their attention, and they don't have to understand why, because the subconscious is working. And that's how you use the message, the fonts, the elements, the colours, etc., and the imagery. It grabs their attention because it's done subconsciously. Because, as we've said, it's been proven scientifically, and the way that we apply it is from a psychological perspective.
Yeah. And I just wanted to say that consistency thing. I know you're trying to wrap us up, but that consistency thing is like, I always think of brands as like a person. Think of a friend, right? A brand is like that friend. If you have a friend that is always random, right, where you just never know what type of person they're going to be, it's a very hard friend to be connected with, because you're like, are you going to be that angry friend today? Are you going to be that negative friend, that happy friend? I'm talking like real emotional gaps. And it's the same with branding, right? It makes it harder for you to be friends with a brand and connect with a brand if they're all over the shop. And so when you're using emotion, which you have to, which we've established, is that you must, like you said, Kristen, is consistency, I feel, is key. Any new takeaways, or we just go straight to like we're done?
That was us going through the takeaways.
That was it. Use emotion and don't think marketing is fluff.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Demand Drivers. We look forward to seeing you on the next one.